Vikki Slade.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I'd like to thank the honourable member for bringing this debate. Every time I meet a parent whose family is supported by a children's hospice, I'm immensely moved by their resilience. Like Gemma, whose 3-year-old son, Finley, has been cared by Julia's House for over 2 years. She wrote an incredible blog about parental mental health, which you can find on their Julia's House website. And in the debate about money, we should never forget that it's not only children whose lives that will be shortened, but parents whose capacity to follow their careers and support their wider family is curtailed. And siblings whose childhoods will look very different. So-called glass children, those children who look strong on the outside, but are so fragile they could smash to 1,000 pieces. Children's hospices and other charities that support young carers and siblings like My Time Young Carers and Mosaic in Dorset deserve our unwavering support, and they should not have to rely on charity shops and crazy challenges to make ends meet, including this crazy MP who's agreed to do a crazy challenge for her children's hospice next year. My local children's hospice, Julia's House, is just half a mile from my home on the border of Broadstone and Corfmullen, and I've visited numerous times since it opened 20 years ago. It has one of the lowest public funding streams across the hospice sector, with only 8% of its funding coming from the NHS. But I had no idea that the support they provide for a child in the last 6 weeks of life is effectively unfunded. We expect the NHS to fund the birth of our children, but we're relying on charity to fund care at a child's death, and I find that shocking. When I visited on Monday this week, I was greeted by a nurse clutching her mobile phone. She showed me the rooms that were prepared for a family who were expected to arrive any time as their child was approaching the end of their life. The Mermaid Suite, which has been built to support a child's needs both before and after their death, was ready to welcome them. But I heard that the nurses would need to be available around the clock. They would receive no funding from the NHS, despite this releasing intensive hospital beds. The cost of end-of-life care was 3 times their usual per-child funding because of the needs of the medication and support at the end of life. And the hospice would have to take this money from the respite, sibling support and regular care programmes to make sure that that family could be given the choice they're entitled to under the NHS Gold Standard. One family who's been through this already is that of Annabelle with a genetically inherited condition. She was a frequent visitor to Julia's House, where she enjoyed respite stays, made friends, joined the hospice choir and even got to meet a member of her favourite pop band, the Vamps. She passed away earlier this year at the age of just 18, and her family now face the agonising prospect of losing Robbie to the same condition, where he is now receiving Julia's House care. But it's not just Robbie. Their other siblings are also receiving care and support through their counselling, and both parents benefit from the respite breaks that will then ultimately give them a chance of staying together. I dread to think what will happen to families like this if hospice services are cut back. The hospice grant hasn't been confirmed beyond 2025, and this needs to be guaranteed into the long term and cover every child that meets the threshold right up to the point of their death. In Dorset, we are 7 months into the year, and the contracts with the local health services have not yet been confirmed from NHS Dorset, NHS Wiltshire, Swindon and Baines. So I would like to ask that the Minister write to the ICBs and insist that they passport 100% of those grants to our precious children's hospices and commit to putting our children's hospices on a sustainable future. Thank you.